Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. I'm your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach. And guys, it's middle of the off season. We weren't expecting to do a pod for another week or two, but as you guys can see, I don't have my typical recording gear, my new gear. I'm traveling, and the Rams decided to make a big trade, as everyone is aware. First off, how are you doing, Zach? And what's your initial reaction to F them picks 2.0 potentially?
Yeah, it's going to be great to break down. I'm doing good. It's been good to take a few weeks off to kind
Yeah.
of, take a little bit of a break, take a little bit of a deep breather, and I'm fully back on board, ready to get this show on the road. So, yeah, we could definitely start off by talking about the Rams' big significant trade, acquiring the All-Pro cornerback Trent McDuffie from the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for I would I would say it's a moderately decent package of draft picks. Starting off, so we get obviously Trent McDuffie, but the Chiefs get our first round pick, number 29. So not our top pick. We still get the pick 13 from the Falcons, but we also give them a fifth, a sixth, and in 2027 a third. How are you feeling about this off the jump? Before we get into more specifics of him as a person and a player, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it is a hefty price tag, especially for a guy who really only has a year left on his contract, and for a guy who is going to have to get re-signed. You're going to have to put a lot of chunk of cap towards him. But initially, he is instantly an upgrade for the position group, and he is relatively young. So that's something that would be very important to me. If you said we had to trade for a DB, would be age and fitting in with the kind of age brackets of this entire defense and how young it is. But he is still more veteran and still more senior than a lot of our defensive players currently on this roster. And I'm going to go into that more, but that's a big thing with me. But good, it's not a great thing. It's not like we got a great deal. We did have to spend a lot of capital, but I do think we're getting a really good player. Is it to level Jalen Ramsey? No, it isn't, and we just have to be honest with that. But
Do you do you think it's that bad when you're looking at, obviously we had to give around a first, and we knew going into this, if the Rams want a star player, they're going to have to give up one of their firsts. I'm glad it was the later first. I think that's a big deal. But then when you look at the fifth and sixth, those are typically the comp picks. So usually you're stacking those a little bit deep there. You don't think that that's kind of a thing to think about when you're saying, like, it's not like we gave up a first and a second or anything like that. We gave up a future third and then a fifth and a sixth for this year.
so so first off, guys, please like and subscribe and tell us whether you think this is a great move. What other moves you would like us see, and who would you guys like to see or would love to see us draft. And we'll get into draft coverage in future pods. But to answer your question, Zach, I think my issue isn't with the fifth and sixth round picks. I'm perfectly fine adding those in. I think my issue is with the third round pick. Uh, that next year third is pretty expensive. I know some people, we can get into it now, looking at other DB trades from this year. I think the first one a lot of people are going to think about is Sauce Gardner, right? You had around, and this was for him in his rookie contract. They traded away Adonai Mitchell, their 2026 first and their 27 first for Sauce Gardner. And I someone tried to tell me that Trent McDuffie is like clearly better than Sauce Gardner or like on the same level. I just think that's personally crazy. Do I think Trent McDuffie is a lockdown cornerback like Sauce? No. Do I think he's a really good man-to-man corner? Yes. I don't know how much zone exactly. I would have to go into more Kansas City plays. I would assume a decent amount, but from everything I've seen, he's been like 60%, 65% in the slot, 35% on the outside. We really needed someone on the outside. Now, even as a player on the outside who you would say is really good but elite in the slot, is him on the outside is going to be better than anyone we have on the roster. Let me be clear there. He's already upgrade, and I'm not saying it's not necessarily worth it. I'm just saying the cost we gave up to get him, especially that third. You know, uh, our bread and butter is the third to like through the fifth rounds of the draft. That's where we have been hitting a lot of
Yeah,
these
I
key
mean,
players.
that's where we've gotten Kyron, Puka. We've
Mhm.
gotten Quentin Lake. We've done really well in those later rounds. So I definitely see your point. Going back to your zone coverage comment, yeah, McDuffie does not play zone coverage in Kansas City as much as he probably will going with the Rams.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see how they fit him in, if they're going to just make him the star, if they're going to, like, we're just assuming he's going to be on the outside, and we don't know that. And I'm just like cautioning some fans, like, they may rearrange the defensive alignment kind of just for the fact that they have a DB that may not play on the outside 100%, at least
Yeah,
elite, right? Like you're trading elite capital. A first round pick is still elite capital, even if it's a late first.
yep,
And I'm not upset about it. It's not like Ernest Jones where I was actively kind of pissed off at the front office for the way they kind of acted and treated that whole situation and the capital they got back. But for this, it's expensive and, hopefully it's worth it. I do think it's critical to say, Zach, I think, and we haven't talked about this, the comments that Jared first said that the entire D line and him included thought the Seahawks were going to just roll over at home as the one seed. That to me shows as such a level of immaturity and lack of respect for your opponent that really tells me they need veteran leadership on the defense, because I know Aaron Donald wouldn't have accepted that, right? I I find it just flabbergasting that they acted like that. And I'm happy he's being honest about it. Like, you got to grow from that. But in those types of situations, like, our defense had chances to stop them and get us the ball back and get us a chance to win that game. And they didn't. And, frankly, they didn't deserve, and they also blew the game for the one seed. So there are multiple chances where these guys should have grown up, and I think they need more veteran leadership. And hopefully, McDuffie can add to that, because everything I've seen, not this last year, but especially the 2 years prior, McDuffie is a special player.
yeah. I mean, he is. He's a big physical player. Obviously, he was All Pro in 2023, and then for first teams, and then second team in 2024. He brings this kind of speed ability, this aggressiveness as a quarterback, not afraid to hit at that line of scrimmage, which I think really helps that Rams defense out in that secondary, where you're not always having to rely on Quentin Lake to do all that work. You're able to allow Quentin Lake to be a little bit more flexible, not always have to help out the secondary, things like that. So I think that this is going to be definitely something that the Rams are really going to utilize. Um, you know, I think he's going to be able to track the ball. I mean, I was just watching clips of him all day today and kind of seeing interviews and things like that. And he uses everything, all the elements around him to take leverage from the defender. I mean, there was one instance where it was in the red zone and he looked up at the jumbo saw that it was a big bomb going to him and he turned around and caught the ball. Like he has that vision. Um, he has that knowledge to kind of understand all the awareness around you and utilize everything to its fullest. And so I think he's going to be an excellent piece. uh, to this puzzle for sure.
Yeah, and our DB tackling, it got better last year because it was atrocious 2 years ago, but there's some room for improvement. We still saw a few big runs kind of broken. You think about the Falcons game primarily, and Trent, from all the games I've watched with him, and everything I've seen, the one thing you can't doubt is I think he's our best kind of DB tackler since Ramsey. He looks like he's going to be really good for the run game, which our run defense was really good last year. So looking forward
Yeah.
to see what he can contribute in the trenches too, because he had a good amount of sacks also in his career.
The one thing that you kind of have to look at is over the last 2 years, though, he was penalized pretty aggressively. I mean, he had 16 penalties and allowed 9 touchdowns. So,
Yeah.
he kind of, I think, maybe gone backwards from the first 2 years that he was there, but he's still an elite. He's still in that elite cornerback position, and I'm like I said, everything is getting better. He is definitely a better piece to the puzzle than what we've been experiencing. Not saying that all of our guys are bad. It's more like we needed somebody else in that elite, and these other guys are better at the rotational pieces or being a DB2 or something like that compared to we always having DB2s and threes when we need at least a DB1 out on the field.
Yeah, and kind of going with their point, we have all DB3s with Akello being a DB2. And that's all. And when Akello went out, you have a bunch of DB3s playing as DB1s, and you saw the results on the field. So, he's
It's going to
not
be
the best.
interesting.
He's not Sauce. I still think that's crazy to try to say he's better than Sauce Gardner. I just disagree
Hey,
with that take.
when you have Patrick Mahomes kind of not too like posted not too happy about losing him, that feels pretty good as another team picking him up. That this guy is a good player for sure. Let's talk about that contract though, real quick, because
Mhm.
right now, our good friend Blaine with the Turf Show Times, he came out and said, the Rams aren't forced into a contract right away with McDuffie. They have control of the 2026 fifth-year option. They can tag and trade next year, or extend the 25-year-old cornerback at his prime. So right now, yes, they don't have a lot of cap space, so they may actually utilize that. But once they get into 2027, the Rams, according to Blaine, and we could double check with over the cap, but they would have 181 million in 2027 cap space. So they will have future money to play with. They don't have to pay him right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter on the street is that he's seeking to be the number one paid uh, DB in the league. What do you think of that, Zach? Do you want to pay this guy number one money?
Well, right now you have to take care of Puka. That's kind of first and foremost. We need to kind of get that situation figured out. Obviously, there's still some deals to be worked on if they're going to restructure Matthew Stafford and that kind of process. Because right now our cap hit currently with this McDuffie trade is we only have 27 million really left per over the cap. So, what can the Rams do today? Are they going to all push that into a future if they try to do something? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think for
Hmm.
right now, they need to kind of keep that 2026 option and then make this be show us what you got for a future contract.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's the approach they should take. Whether McDuffie accepts that approach or not, we will see. But Zach, talking about the future, with DB now somewhat addressed, what direction do you think the team should go in uh, free agency and in the draft positionally? Like, what are the things you think they should prioritize in free agency versus in the draft and get younger at and prepare for the future, right? And do you think we need to add other vet wide receiver like Mike Evans, or do you think we should go young or do both? Like, what's your kind of views there?
Yeah, I'm loving everything that I'm seeing right now, and I think all options are on the table. Really, the Rams I don't think could go wrong in any one spot. I do think that maybe we need to look at another offensive lineman, maybe someone more for the left tackle position. Uh, I want to see someone who can handle if something does happen with Alaric. I think
Hmm.
that would be a good move. I definitely see in the wide receiver giving Stafford as many weapons as possible this season. Not saying I don't dislike any of the spots, but I get a little frustrated a little bit when all of a sudden Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua are on the field, and then we go back to having pretty much three wide receiver threes on the field, or two, depending on if we're changing up the packages or not. I want us to see consistent explosion. So whether that's through the draft or free agency, I would be fine either way. I think the Rams, again, with this trade, I think that the Rams really hit the biggest need, and that was the defensive back. And so I would be happy if they picked up another DB in the draft. Again, someone to kind of learn from these players. I think that would be a very well utilized. But it's also going to depend on what we're going to do with BY. Are we going to extend BY? Are we going to move on from him? Then you're looking at, well, you need to probably find another edge piece that's going to fix that. I think Max Crosby's pretty much off the table at this point. I don't think the Rams are going to utilize their other first-round pick to pick up a Max Crosby. So I think they're either going to work on BY or they're going to find somebody probably higher up in the draft to kind of figure that edge piece.
So first off, I'll kind of tip off of the Max Crosby comment for a second. Quick question, Zach. If the Raiders came to you and said, "We'll trade you Max Crosby for your 27 first, 28 first, and 28 second," would you do that? Considering the fact that we just got Trent, we have a first this year, we have a second this year, we'll be able to invest more and more in this young core, but also go all in for Stafford's last year. Would you take that?
I don't know. You're losing a first and a third next year on top of, an additional first the following year. I don't know. I feel like that's too much.
Max is good, man. Max is good.
He is
He's
good.
really good. But uh, let me just comment on the tackle comment. I do understand your concern. This, as I've been diving more and more into this class, ever since a few weeks back, guys, you don't know this, but I got asked to do a Cardinals show, mainly because of the head coach hiring, and I started diving into the class because one of their biggest needs is tackles. They do. I think they need a center too. But
That's what a
this,
quarterback.
well, yeah, this is not the class to want a quarterback in, Zach. It really isn't.
For sure.
Um, but this tackle class, Zach, is very top heavy with one person who might slide out of the top 10, that me being potentially Fano. And the problem with this class is you got a lot of guys who are all tackles that are going to probably in the NFL level physically going to have to go guard. And that's a lot of tackles in this class. So it is a relatively weak tackle class for NFL drafts.
Yeah. Just with not having, obviously we're moving on. Havenstein's retiring, so I am fully invested in what our current offensive line is. My worry is if one man goes down, we can't have a 2022 scenario again where we're fumbling because we didn't anticipate needing a backup. That's really what I'm focusing on there. Whether or not that actually maybe they do it within free agency or something like that, that's fine. But again, your number one priority is to protect Matthew Stafford. and then get
And
him the weapons he needs.
congrats to Rob Havenstein, last St. Louis Rams. Congrats, enjoy retirement. Uh, it's crazy to think, Zach, he was always a second thought, not because he was a bad player, but because he was so good and stable. We just had to never really think about him or that position and just put in a corner and he'll take care of it. He'll be there. And until last year, and we'll be honest, both me and you said it, his play dropped off a good amount and he was just struggling. And that could have been an injury. Like a lot of times, we don't know when these guys are hurting, and there's a lot of reasons for why they struggle one year and not the other. But besides that, he had a really good career, and he was a really great Ram. And it's sad, sad to see him go.
It is, but in all instances, it's always good when they retire with the team that they started with. That's always kind of nice and enjoyable.
Yeah, it's rare.
The only other thing that I was wrapping up that I think is kind of cool looking at the McDuffie thing was that he played with both Puka Nacua in college and Quentin Lake in high school. So making some connections back again is something very unique. So I thought that was cool to bring up too. Yeah, so that's all we guys got for our our Trent McDuffie trade. Definitely make sure you drop your comments down below. What's your guys' thoughts on the trade? YouTube.com/East Coast Rams is where you can find our video where we're at right now live, or you can catch us on demand there too. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and then make sure you like this video as well. Try to get this shared around. Some other news that we got going on: Rams exclusive rights free agents. So they kind of tagged Justin Dedich, Harrison Mevis, and Xavier Smith to exclusive rights tags. How are you feeling? Feel pretty good about that?
I would be eyeing to sign Brandon Aubrey in free agency.
Sure.
I think he's worth the money. We have the extra cap. You're going to get cap from
Do we have
Stafford.
The extra cap? We haven't paid. We haven't paid Puka yet. Remember this. There are things that we need to pay for right now. We have to pay for Puka. You have to think about what's happening with Byron. There's you're looking in the future, and there's a lot of things that we still need to pay for within this next cycle. Do we have the money to go out and pay for an elite kicker?
Yeah, for a year. Because like we saw last year and especially 2 years ago, every kick matters, and we couldn't trust Mevis past 40 yards, or really 45. And I think if you're going to make a run, we saw with the Seahawks, special teams can make that edge of a difference when other things aren't going perfectly. And Brendan Aubrey, he's, I would say, the best kicker in the league, arguably top three. So definitely pay him. I'm not saying don't pay Puka. Puka is going to get his bag. But if you look at it this way, Devontae Adams isn't going to be on the payroll forever, and Stafford won't be on the payroll forever. We're basically signing him year by year. So we're not going to have to pay that money when we get a rookie quarterback like other teams have to deal with. So we have the money to spare, and I think it would just be a good improvement. Do you want to kind of talk about like free agents a little bit and kind of wish list and stuff like that?
Honestly, I think we talked about it a little bit, I think, on the last podcast. Obviously, the Trent Duffy, I think, was the biggest pickup, and that was the biggest need in free agency that I thought. When I look at other free agents, obviously, I think someone you brought him up before, the Buccaneers.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, you brought him up. I think I mentioned him in the past. Like, he would be a good pickup as well. Someone who's a veteran player who could, cause a lot of more confusion out there when you have Puka, Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans. Like, holy crap, that would seem like a dream wide receiver core.
Zach, you forgot to add Jeremiah Love into there also.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean,
Well, we'll have that conversation in the future. But I agree with you. Mike Evans would be a interesting addition, especially with his physicality. I feel like Stafford loves those guys, and he's been searching for that guy in the Rams, and we just haven't had him. Puka is kind of that uh, to a good amount. Zach, real quickly, what about Tyreek Hill?
No,
No,
pass, pass.
no,
No,
you're not feeling the Tyreek hype.
no, I'm not. Uh, I'm not. I think that there's more there. I think than meets the eye, and I think we want to stay away from that.
What about Trey Hendrickson?
I think he's going to be
He,
expensive. He's going to be
yeah,
expensive.
true, but he would be expensive for a short-term deal.
But with what money? With our 27 million we got left, and we haven't paid Puka.
We can move money around. I'm not worried if Snead wants someone, they can make the books work. They really can.
Sure.
Yeah, they would just shift all of Stafford's money into dead cap and void years. I guarantee you that's what they're going to do when they extend him.
Burn the future. We're going to have to live in the dark ages for a while.
If we would just listen to me, like I said, go all in last year. I didn't understand why we didn't push more, especially make the secondary better. Like
I
I
mean, the secondary, our special teams was god awful. Like, there's other areas that we could poke fingers out of last season of why we were the way we were, but
yeah.
I won't blame it all on the defense. I think a lot of it had to do with our special teams. I mean, look, really Xavier Smith kind of I think blew our chance, at the end when on that muff punt. That was brutal to us. So there's a lot of things. Ifs, shoulda, woulda, couldas. But I don't know. I hate robbing the future completely. Obviously, I think that there are some ways that you can wiggle around that, and Snead has done a very good job of being able to kind of navigate those roads. But even then, we've seen lean years before. 2022 was a terrible season. We've had bad seasons. They've been short. We haven't had to live through, a decade of bad seasons, but we've had to experience that as well. But we'll see. I think this is funny. I'm going to put this one up here, but Smith should not be returning kicks. I mean, now maybe, but you look at the previous year, he was our best, most explosive kick returners. So, obviously one bad muff could kind of maybe ruin your career a little bit, but I think he's still a solid player. I think he's probably feeling the worst out of anybody on that team about, reliving that day after day.
I I just I agree with that, to be honest. I don't think Smith has ever been a bad returner, but in biggest moment of your career, you just gotta not make those mistakes, especially after bobbling it the first like a few plays or a few drives earlier than that. So we definitely have to try to find someone that could replace him.
Oh,
But
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that that's the wrong decision. My point was the reason why he was there was because prior to that, prior to that Seattle game, he was a very, I don't know if you want to say admirable, but he was making some explosive plays. And that's why they kept giving him a chance. That's why he stayed on the roster and was more integrated into the receiving core, was
yeah,
because of what he did on special teams in 2024.
yeah, he was above average returner. He wasn't elite, but he was a decent returner. But you just can't put the ball on the ground. That's probably the worst thing you can do as a returner in that situation. Uh, what about the tight end position, Zach? Is that a position you would be looking to
It, I
adding
think it, I think it
onto in
depends.
free agency?
It kind of depends on what they do with Tyler Higbee. I think I'm going to say I think everything is going to come
He's
down
not
to
coming
what
back, man. I don't think he's coming back.
we don't know that. I mean, Sean McVay said this week that they are still talking with Tyler Higbee, that they still seem interested in keeping him on. And if they
Oh,
do, then I don't see a reason to go any more towards it. I mean, I'm
I
hoping that Ferguson hits. Parkinson played way better than he's played in previous years. Like, I'm honestly like,
so
I'm kind of tired of this same cycle that we've been in year after year. We're picking up tight ends and they're just not performing. I think we got to get
okay.
back to what we're good at.
So what about David Njoku or Travis Kelsey? Uh, let's
Travis
assume
Kelsey is,
Higby. Let's assume Higby is not coming back. I personally would love David Njoku. I think he's a great pass catcher. His blocking is really good. I think he's on the same level of Higby with blocking, but he is dynamic with the ball in his hands, and he hasn't really had a lot of great QBs in Cleveland.
sure.
So it, that's one I would really advocate for. Jamel Dean, I think he would be a solid DB addition. He's 29 years old. They have him around a $12 million contract. I could see us going that direction.
If they move on from Higbee, I think they're going to address it again. That was I want to make sure that's my point. I don't know. Just based on what they were saying, what Sean McVay was saying, just a day or two ago, like it feels like there is still that door is still open for Higbee to stay. Whether he wants to stay or maybe he wants to retire or maybe he wants to move on, we'll see. Um, I think Travis Kelsey's out. I'm with you. I would be fine with Njoku. I, even if they wanted to look again somewhere else for that, but uh, I feel like Sean McVay is really trying really, really, really hard on this tight end room, and nothing really has shown me much reward coming from that. Ferguson's fine. I just haven't seen anything that's he's not lights out yet. You look at other tight ends through the league, and there are better ones out there that are playing better teams, and so I don't know. I could go on a tight end rant, but I'll try to avoid that.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to provoke another one. What about Tutu Atwell?
I mean, I think his time has to be done. I mean, paying him $10 million
We've
for a
been
year.
saying that, man.
I know, but here's the thing: I'm a Tutu. I love Tutu Atwell. I have him signed my personal jersey because I do like Tutu Atwell, and I think he does have a different versatility.
Yeah.
Just he's either injured or Sean McVay doesn't utilize him, and
It's not his fault. It hasn't been his fault for like 3 years.
sure. I mean, but that's the problem is like, why are we paying him for him to be promised something that this never comes into fruition? We don't have a deep threat, and he was supposed to be our deep threat, and they just never gave it to him the option. He had like 10 snaps this whole year.
He hurt his value so badly. I can't believe he came back with us. It just for his prospects, not for the team. Like he did everything he was asked for. This is not an indictment or like a criticism of Tutu Atwell in the sense of his play. Every time we saw him come onto the field, he performed. The problem was like the front office and McVay and the coaching staff not giving him opportunities. And I don't understand why he came back after like it's been 2 or 3 years of him promised a bigger role, and he just doesn't get it, even with injuries outside of his own. So hopefully he goes somewhere and he signs a prove it deal and he can, succeed because he deserves it with all the hard work he's put into it.
Oh, for sure. I think McVay just gets back to his roots of big-bodied receivers who can also block well. And I think that's maybe the one thing that Tutu Atwell lacks is the blocking capability because he is I'm not saying he's a tiny guy, but he's one of the smaller size receivers. And when you're trying to take on, defensive fronts and stuff like that to help block, it's a little bit hard, probably more difficult for him.
Yeah, it just didn't turn out to be a great fit, and we didn't try to make it work as well as I thought we could have. Um, Besides that, Jawan Taylor, he could be a tackle option. Oh, I think he might have got extended. Trayvon Diggs, he's projected at $8 million. Like, would you want to give Trayvon Diggs a shot? He had a up and down season in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, for a small contract, I'd probably be okay with that.
8 mil.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
So are you on the same bandwidth as me though? Like we definitely need to add 2 wide receivers.
One through free agency and one through the draft.
Either or, like pick your,
I don't know. I don't know if
pick
we
your
would get
poison.
2 free agency wide receivers, but I could definitely see us um, doing 1-1. But I think they won't make any moves really until they figure out Puka.
Yeah, remember though, we can also extend Puka's cap hit into next year, anyways, if we
Sure.
wanted to. Yeah,
No, sure. There could be
it's
a big signing bonus or whatever to move money around. Yeah, there's plenty of things that they could do.
yeah, and I'll just give you guys a quick preview from all my um kind of college scouting I've been doing. This wide receiver class is really good. It is a really deep class, and you're talking about possibly 8 or 9 high impact wide receivers in the first 2 rounds. Like really, really good talent. It's probably the best. Um, it's the best segment of the draft by far. Is the wide receivers. Yeah, yeah. It's between that and linebackers. There's a lot of good linebackers in this draft too, especially the top end linebackers like Zach. That Ohio State kid is nuts. He could play uh, not like I knew he played good at Ohio State, and I'm not a big combine person, but the way he just shattered every drill, I think they put his numbers compared to other positions, and he was also in the top percentile in most positions that aren't linebacker. That is how good that linebacker is from Ohio State. You're going to have to trade up to like 3 or 4 to get him, which is crazy to say about inside linebacker.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. Kind of going off that combine, the Rams met with several players. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously Snead and McVay weren't there at the combine. I know we're going to get into your favorite player probably ever in this draft here in a second, but the players that
I
they
got
did
2.
meet was Jeremiah Love, your favorite wide receivers,
I'm a big love
Brennan
person.
Thompson with Mississippi State and Makai Lemon for USC. Uh,
Yeah,
I think Lemon is also one of those players. He's the other one on your list.
yeah.
We talked about him, I think, a little bit last time too. He's on the top of a lot of Rams draft boards of thinking that they were going to use one of the picks to pick up Lemon if he's still available at the time. Offensive line, looking at guard center Micah Morris, edge rusher Ruben Bain from Miami, linebacker Josiah Trotter from Missouri, and cornerback Monsieur Delane from LSU. So let's talk about your 2 faves, Jeremiah Love and Lemon. How likely do you think that they are going to be there at 13 and the Rams would pick them
Oh,
if they're there?
love will not be there. I think it. I and check me if I'm wrong here, Zach, but I feel like I've been pretty good about players that I've really liked that the Rams have all tried to trade up for. I've been actually pretty spot on with it. They didn't end up with these players, but they have tried to get them. When you're talking about Dalton Kincaid, they tried to trade up for Bowers. They tried to trade up for Warren. They tried to trade up for Mbuka. I'm just saying I've been pretty good with like some of these player prospects and knowing what would fit good in the Ram system. Now the Rams haven't pulled the trigger on a lot of these guys, but Love is seriously probably the third or fourth best overall running back prospect I've seen. I don't know if I like him as much or on the same level as Ashton Genty. And for a quick second, for anyone who wants to have any Ashton Genty slander, the man at like 10 weeks through the season, he had above 100% of his yards were gained after contact. And he still put up a top 10 running back season. So Ashton Genty is really talented, but I think Love is just a different style of back, and I think he would fit perfectly into our system. He is great at receiving. He's really good at blocking. His downhill running, we'll see how it transfers to the NFL. I just don't know. But he's super shifty, and he is electric when he just like this guy can house any screen pass. And I think when people have made the mistake of saying, well, we have Kyron and we have Corum, we would just trade one of those guys. And I'm like, no, you don't need to trade one of those guys because Love can play wide receiver. He can play tight end. And at any moment, we saw last year a little bit with 12 personnel and everything, we could go into 21 personnel, have Love shift out in the motion in a second when they come out in a heavy set, and have him running routes against a linebacker. And Love will destroy a linebacker on routes. He is a generational level running back prospect, and I do agree with that assessment that people have given him. And he isn't up there with Brock Bowers with how much I want him. And I said I would have traded two first, and I think I was warranted for that view now, Zach, looking back on it with how Brock Bowers has turned out. And I think Love is definitely up to that point where I do think it's a legitimate cost to spend a future first to trade up and get Love. I do think that would be worthwhile in a McVay system, even with two good running backs, with the fact that we could rotate him in that running back rotation and throughout the entire formation itself.
So you think the
Now,
Rams could actually push up and get into a top 5 slot? Because that's where he's looking right now, is being in one of
yeah,
those prime spots, going from 13
I
to
think
top 4 or 5.
he goes 5 to 7. I think he's going to go around that range, and I think you can get into 5 or 6 trading a future first.
I mean, shoot, he was running a, what was it, a 4.37, at his 212 weight. So he's a
He's
speedy
crazy.
dude for his size.
He would be the closest thing we've had to Todd Gurley.
I mean, if you break down his combine score, he ranked first in production, second in athleticism, and first total score of all of the combine running backs.
Yeah. And again, he'll be able to do a lot more positions than just running back. McVay would have a field day with the personnel usage and moving around, running 21 personnel, but running 11 personnel play out of 21 personnel. And you just say that sentence and it sounds crazy, and McVay is crazy enough to make it work perfectly. So he would be really well. And out of all the top wide receivers, don't get me wrong, I would still like Tate out of Ohio State. He would be really good. I would still like the wide receiver out of Arizona. Uh, I do like Tyson a good amount, but Lemon, he is, and this is a very physical, tall, fast wide receiver class. Lemon isn't the fastest, and he isn't the tallest, but man, he's probably the most polished route runner in this draft class. He comes out of the box being able to run any route. He has a really good, I think, one of the better first steps coming out of college, at least in this draft class, when you're talking about top end wide receivers. And he can block. Not the best blocking, but he can block, I would say, like better than Tutu or on probably Jordan Whittington level. So, and he wouldn't have to be number one wide receiver out of the gate. He would be able to sit, learn from Devontae, learn from Puka. I ultimately think they'll end up probably trading up to like 9 or 8 to get Lemon or a wide receiver.
I
I
was
think
reading an
they're
article.
gonna.
The Jets think they could get him at 16.
He's not falling 16.
I know. I think it was crazy, but as I'm looking up these stuff while you're talking, like kind of doing some of your talk, I was like, oh man, the
Yeah.
Jets think they can get him at 16. Jeez.
No, no, he's not falling 16. Uh, but if he isn't there, Jordan Tyson, if you're talking about, I think Lemon goes like 10 or 11, if I'm being honest. And if we stay put, I think Jordan Tyson would be a really good secondary option. He is physical, he is very fast. I think he's 6'5". His only issue is he's a lot rougher in the route tree. That's going to have to develop a lot more. I think his first step is good, but not as elite as Lemon's, at least from all the tape I've seen. So, you know, some options there. I think at 13, you're in that weird mid area, Zach, where you still have the ability to some top prospects, but are you going to get some of those really elite prospects falling to you? And if they do, are you going to go best player possible if that's the case? Or
Yeah.
do they trade back? I think we could see a realistic chance if all those things go. I think he's going to try to trade up to get love. They're going to ask a lot, and I don't think they're going to be willing to give up the amount they need to secure love. I personally would. I think love would be a game changer for this offense, and that's saying a lot given it's a number one offense in the NFL. But
So do you think
we'll
do you
see.
think the Rams go offense? They go with a weapon for their first round pick? Is that your kind of
Yeah, I know. I think they go DB if they trade back. I could see a world where they get to 13 and you see Lemon off the board, you see Tate off the board, and they might have like a premier tackle fall to them, but they don't want to take a premier tackle right then, and they don't necessarily want to take Tyson right there because they think he might fall. So you could see them trade back like 10 spots and be like, we'll either get Tyson or one of the like late end cornerbacks. Because all the things I've seen from the DBs, the difference between getting a DB in the early part of the first round and late part of the first round this draft isn't as varied as people might want for spending that capital. So that's my personal opinion. I think they'll probably end up trading back if Lemon and Love. Now the interesting thing will be is if Sadiq falls to them at 13. I do think they might take Sadiq at 13.
gotcha? Yeah, I mean, Sean McVay does love his tight end, so you know,
So
it's
we would have two Oregon tight ends. on the roster. Two is better than one, Zach.
Two is always better
That's
than
how
one.
counting works.
All right, wrapping things up. Let's finish out with talking kind of about the 2026 coaching tree. Now that things have officially moved on and things like that, we knew Cliff Kingsbury was coming back. We didn't get it as official title until really within the last week or so. Cliff Kingsbury is coming over from the Cardinal. Well, he was with Washington, formerly with the Cardinals. Going to be McVay's assistant head coach, singled out specifically as assistant head coach. All things aside, Nate Scheelhaas is the offensive coordinator, with Dave Ragon, who was the quarterback's coach, being the associate offensive coordinator. Two big news was that we brought back two Rams former players as coaches. Brian Allen as assistant offensive coach, and the newly retired Ram Robert Woods as assistant wide receiver. How do you feel about that? Robert Woods doing a 1-day contract with the Ram and then immediately joining the coaching staff.
Bobby Trees. Hey man, I love Bobby Trees. He was so good with the Rams. A very undervalued, really hardworking, good, consistent wide receiver. Did his job, he was always a consistent 800 to 1200 yard wide receiver. Nothing flashy. He wasn't elite, but he was really good. So, yeah, I mean, every team has those guys that are just the guys on the team, and congrats to him. He definitely deserves it. He did something right to be that successful that long in the NFL.
Yeah, I think this is a great move. I think that this definitely gets you someone who is a veteran receiver who is able to communicate well and maybe can help coach the youngers, though, whether it's Puka or Whittington or whoever comes in through the draft. I think it's going to be that other element that they can relate to. It's bringing in I wouldn't say, but a Cooper Kupp-esque person to kind of help shape that wide receiver room a little bit, who still can kind of get out there and kind of do the drills and things like that, and give him his experience. And he knows the Rams and the Sean McVay system very well. So I think that he's going to be able to really help with that. I think that was, I think potentially the future of what Cooper Kupp, what they were hoping that they could have done with that is move him, eventually retire him, and then, him come to the coaching staff, because I think that would be anybody who gets Cooper Kupp after he decides he's going to end it and gets him in that room is going to be, that's going to be a threatening coaching tree right there if you can get Cooper Kupp in the building. But super excited that Robert Woods is coming in. He's going to be really well working with Yarber. Definitely a great move. Love seeing former players come back and being able to coach the next generation.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Special teams coordinator, we finally found our guy in Boba Vitrone, spending the last few seasons with the Browns and then coming over from the Colts. Has to get better, right? Has to get better.
Can't be worse.
We've seen worse for the last several years, so definitely can't be worse. But the one notable absence is Aubrey Pleasant. And, it just kind of seemed like when they released this, he wasn't on the list. You kind of search for him. It doesn't seem like he was picked up by anybody. He had several interviews for, defensive coordinator positions elsewhere. Thought potentially that, the Rams could have picked him up if things didn't go the way with Shula, that that if Shula moved on, maybe Aubrey would fill in that offensive coordinator position or defensive coordinator position. But for them just
I don't think that was going to
ways,
happen. Yeah.
I mean, now it doesn't seem like it was going to happen. I felt like back in the time, it felt like, well, that this seems to be the natural thing. He was the assistant head coach. He was moving up kind of in the ranks, things like that. But now kind of thinking like Sean McVay coming out and said, at the end of the day, he made tremendous contributions to us, but just felt like it was going to be the best interest of both parties to move on. So
he got fired. He got fired because the DBs were the reason they lost. They lost a 1 seed because of that, and they lost a chance at going to a Super Bowl because of that. And Pleasant also struggled mightily to develop people in Detroit too. And that's why he got fired from there. And, I was definitely, it was worth giving him a second chance here. And, I think it just ran its course, in my personal opinion. You look at his history, he got plenty of opportunities. It sucks. I hate to see people like lose their jobs and stuff. You don't root for that. But
It's
yeah.
just weird because not like it's not his call really. I mean, and I guess we don't know because we're not in the rooms, but like he's doing
He
with
could have
what he
just left.
has. He's doing with what he had. Like you don't give him
It
cornerbacks. You kind of get what you get.
I I agree. I think yeah, there's definitely two layers to the conversation of like how much do they think they really gave him? How much did they actually give him? And how much did he not really develop them to the like at the pace they wanted him? I mean, we could see this as kind of like, hey, we expected you to get more out of Forbes by now, type deal. This is why we brought Forbes over for you to grow him, and he isn't where we want him to be.
Sure,
Maybe.
could be.
And I don't think that's an like indictment on Forbes or not. It just there's a lot of factors we don't know. And I think that's why I like how we try to cover the team, Zach, is we acknowledge when we don't know things and we're not just gonna project
Yeah.
when we're giving you guys our best guesses, but no, like we don't have any inside sources or anything like that.
Yeah, it just feels a little weird. Coming from being an assistant head coach, maybe I don't know. It's weird situation, but we finally kind of got some clarity. Whatever the situation is, they departed, and that's just where it left. So now the quarterbacks will be overseen by Jimmy Lake, who has been a head coach, has been a coordinator, someone who's going to hopefully help develop these DBs and cornerbacks in the secondary into being um, more cohesive than what we saw this past season.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this thing up?
No, man, I'm continuing to dig into this draft class more, learning a lot. I'm looking forward to having more podcasts about the draft, about direction and team. We kind of, gave you guys a little nugget there, a little teaser for future pods. But hey, Zach, we're back in the era of FTP, and let's win a Super Bowl next year.
Let's go. We're entering our season 6 of the East Coast Rams podcast, and what better way to celebrate
Thanks.
the end of it would be to oh no, not season 6. We're season 5. I think that's
Season
right.
five.
Hold on.
I was like, I
It's
don't
season
even
5
say
or 6.
yours yet. I don't even say
Well,
yours yet, Zach.
I know. Let me double check. I got to double check us real quick. But I think.
We're getting old, Zach. We were young men when we
No,
started this.
so technically it's season 6. And we're going by the seasons that they played. And we started midway through. Like the Super Bowl season, we started like in December. So I count that one already as season 1. So, kind of like a little bit. Technically, we are in season 6.
Hey, every TV show, the pilot season is shortest, right? Got to establish things. Just point that out there.
You know?
But we were young men back then. We were young men back then.
This is true. This is true. But hey, we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to continuing to talk to you guys all off season long while we get closer to the draft, post draft. We get to all these deadlines, training camp. It's going to be fun. It's going to be electric. We cannot wait. But for you guys to continue to listen and support us, all we ask you to do is go to youtube.com/@EastCoastRams. Hit that like and subscribe something. We don't ask for a penny. We're not asking, for you to drop us a Patreon, at least for now. We want to stay free and independent for as long as possible. But the biggest support you can do is by liking, subscribing to our podcast. YouTube.com/Out East Coast Rams. If you go to Spotify, go to Apple Music, like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review, leave comments below. That would just mean the world to us to continue to grow this platform and this brand. So just, again, really would appreciate if you guys did that. You can find Ashton at RamFanAshton1 on X. You can find me at Zac Mayer. You can find us primarily, we're mostly on X at East Coast Rams, but we've been doing a lot on Instagram as well. So at East Coast Rams Pod. So please make sure that you will follow, subscribe to each and every one of our channels. Ashton, great to do a pod. Been a month, but I think we're back into the swing of things.
Yeah, buttery smooth as always. I love doing this with you guys watching. Love doing this with Zac, and looking forward to another nice, hopefully win-filled season. No stress, no close games, and I'm sure no losses. No stress. I'm sure. Next season we're going to be 17-0, 40-0 every game, right?
Every time.
Right.
Every time.
Every time.
So, yeah, we appreciate you guys for joining us today. Please, again, check us out next time. Hit that notification bell so you guys get notified anytime that we go live. And we will see you guys next time. Whose house? Oh, it's the Los Angeles Rams house, of course. See you guys.